Guys, Yugioh here. This is going to be my last video of the day having to do with pendulum monsters. Now, before I thought I can do I had more time to do pendulum monsters, but I realized at that moment that pendulum monsters are a bit complicated, okay? And it's going to take me a bit of time to talk about them. Now, pendulum monsters, like I said in the video before, they're half monster and half spell. But I don't really think of that much. And when these guys came out, there were two new additions to the format, the playmat, called pendulum zones. They're basically right in between the graveyard and the main deck, and the extra deck and the field card zone. I don't have a mat that shows that, but I mean, just imagine that. Okay, so pendulum monsters, they go in your main deck. They don't go there to the extra deck, but they will eventually. Now, I'm just going to start off talking about it, okay? Name. They have their names, like any other monster. They have their levels, they have their attribute, and they have a monster effect, okay? They have the attack and defense. So that's when you can either put this monster as a monster in the monster card zone, or you can play him as a spell card in the pendulum zone. Now that's when different stuff happens. If he's in your hand and you have an open monster card zone or an open pendulum zone, you can either put him as a monster, or you can normal summon him as a monster, or you can put him in your pendulum zone as a spell card. And if you put him as a monster, forget about this entire stuff. This entire stuff doesn't matter if he's a monster. And then you just play him as a monster. The only special rules it gets as a monster or pendulum is that he can be destroyed as what it is right now. If he's a monster, he gets destroyed as a monster. If he's a pendulum, if he's in the pendulum zone, he isn't destroyed as a monster. He's not even treated as a monster. He's treated as a spell card. Okay, so you can activate a card that destroys spells and destroy this guy. But when pendulum monsters are going to be sent to the graveyard, they are not. They are sent to the extra deck, face up. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, let's just leave this guy there for a moment. And then just talk about these. These guys are pendulum monsters as well. Now, there's this other thing you need to know. There's monster effect, pendulum there. So, I already talked about monster effects, so you guys don't need me to talk about that again. But one thing you guys need to know is that their pendulum effect and these numbers. Now, for pendulum summoning, when you have them as a spell card, you count this. This thing you can forget. Even the level and the attribute, you forget that. Just count this. When the pendulum, okay, no. So they're basically like continuous spell cards, but they're not. They're not considered continuous spell cards. They're just spell cards. Okay? And then when let me just bring that other guy, let's just leave this guy there for an example. Okay, let's say this guy got destroyed. He goes to the extra deck zone. And then you have these two guys. In order to put him as a pendulum, if you want to put him as a spell card, put him as a spell card. Just put him, let's say these are the corners. I don't want to keep moving the camera. This is one corner, this is another corner. Pendulum zone, see? And then they have this scale thing right there. See, they have the scale thing. This one's 1, this one's 8, this one's 1. Now, in order to pendulum summon, you need to have 2 pendulum monsters on the field, and you need to have a scale that's at least 2 numbers away. So, like 1 and 3 will work. 1 and 2 wouldn't work for a pendulum summon, because you can only pendulum summon monsters whose level is in between the pendulum scale. So this is 1 and 8. So you can only pendulum summon monsters from your hand or your extra deck, as in these face up monsters on your pendulum in your extra deck, whose level is in between the pendulum scale. Now this one's 1 and 8. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 would definitely work. So you have these two guys here. Then you can pendulum summon monsters from your hand or your face-up extra deck. Now, when I say face up, that's because that means that you can only bring out pendulum monsters that are face up on your extra deck. Not Exceeds monsters, not Synchro, and not Fusion. Those monsters have to be face down. And you can't even bring out Exceeds by that way because it's rank. Okay, so these three monsters, level 6, level 7, level 4, they are in between, so you can bring these guys out. You can pendulum summon as many monsters as you want, but you can only do this once per turn. And this is a special summon, so like I said, it can be negated. Then since you have a monster, you have a face-up monster in your extra deck, and its level is in between the pendulum scale, you can bring him out. And it's level 3, so you can just bring him out. Now this is good and bad for me. I mean, like having a pendulum deck, it's good and bad because then you're gonna need the right monsters for that, and you need to have probably monsters in the extra deck. I mean, you need the right monsters because these two, they have a great range in pendulum scale, but their effects are just bad for me. Okay, their effects are that if you don't have a magician or an odd eyes pendulum monster in your pendulum in the other pendulum zone, their pendulum scales are 4, each one of them. Yeah, and one thing that makes this guy even worse is that he can only be played in the pendulum zone if you don't have any monsters on the field. That's bad as well, because unless you have him first turn or you don't have any monsters on the field, this guy cannot be played as a pendulum monster, which means you can't bring out this guy to do a good combo by bringing out many monsters, which is just bad for me. I mean, they're the pendulum monsters I have right now, and they're the ones that there aren't that many others to choose from in my case. So I mean, these two guys are, in the deck for that reason. So that's pendulum summoning. I don't think there's anything else I left out. Oh yeah, like I said, pendulum monsters in the pendulum zone are spell cards, not monster cards. So you can't Exceed summon, you can't Synchro summon, and you can't Fusion. Unless it says otherwise. Okay? And that's basically it. That's pendulum summoning for you, and hope you guys learn from this experience. And I'll see you on another video. Thank you for watching, and I hope this was helpful if you wanted to know how to play this game. And I hope it was helpful in case you're going to be watching more of my videos. And yeah, please leave a like and tell me if you are troubled, if you still don't know, and I'll respond. So bye guys, I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.